everybody, I'm Paulie G. Welcome back to the Paulie G Show, coming to you live from high atop Mount Georgia. How are you doing? So glad to be here with you. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's a wild weather day up here on Mount Georgia. We're getting the tailspins of the Hurricane Debbie here on this Friday, August 9th, 2024. So it's kind of a crazy day. We'll probably be interrupted by some wind gusts and things pounding on the windows. But, you know, hey, that's just nature. Nature's going to do what nature's going to do, right? So anyway, we're here today to talk about Gibson Doves. So I did a review of this guitar quite some time ago on the channel, but I'm going to pull that video off. It was, you know, it was one of those things I did with my phone, and it was really lousy. The audio was horrible. It's cringe. It's really. I watched it the other day. It's really cringe. So I just thought it would be a good idea now that I have some halfway decent audio and video equipment. I would do it justice, or at least to the best that I can, you know, with my limited skill set. So, in both guitar playing and video production. But all that aside, so Gibson Doves, you know, here's the story with these, little background. They started building these in 1962 along with the Hummingbird. And those two are very, very similar in a lot of ways, and I'll get into why they're different in a lot of ways, because I think most people know a lot about the Hummingbird and maybe less so about the Dove, which the Dove was kind of considered a little bit of an upgrade from a Hummingbird for a couple reasons, but they're both pretty awesome guitars. Both are square shoulder dreadnoughts, some of the first ones that Gibson was making. They did the Country Western, was kind of the first like square shoulder, and these followed that in pretty short order after that. So, you know, typical spruce top, rosewood fretboard, rosewood bridge. Here's where the differences start to happen between the Hummingbird and the Dove. So the Hummingbird would be solid mahogany back and sides, but the Doves are solid maple back and sides. So quite a different tone pattern happening between these two, you know, guitars. One has a lot more sustain than the other. I think the Dove probably has a little bit less sustain than the Hummingbird. A little quicker, you know, maybe decay, a little more power up front. But, you know, just kind of different palettes altogether tone-wise. So both are, you know, they're bird themed, so, you know, the pick guards and the ornamentation are kind of centered around that. The Hummingbird has, of course, the Hummingbird pickguard, but the Dove has a beautiful hand-done mother of pearl Dove inlay. It's got the little doves or the dove wings. I can never tell which they're supposed to be on the bridge. And then, of course, both have the split parallelogram fret markers. Typically, you know, the tuners, they're either going to be Grovers or, depending on the year, or these are the, you know, the Kluson Deluxe tuners. So now a little bit of background on this particular Dove, because this one, for a couple of reasons, is pretty unique in my opinion. So the first thing you may notice is that it's Sunburst, Tobacco Sunburst specifically, which is pretty rare for a Dove. Typically a Dove would be natural top and then cherry red stained maple back and sides instead of this burst here. So that makes this one pretty unique. What makes it, I think, even maybe a little bit more unique is that, so we all know that Gibson was building acoustics in the Kalamazoo factory from, you know, the 1930s up until they moved the acoustic factory to Bozeman, Montana. Now that happened in 1989 is when they got Ren Ferguson to come aboard and take control and supervise the whole setup and production of the Bozeman factory. And they started in 1989. Officially, they were selling guitars that were 1990, serial numbers for the most part. But they actually made a number of guitars in very late 1989, and this is one of them. So this is really one of the first guitars that was built in the Bozeman factory. And, I know that Ren Ferguson was there, and I know he had a really small team of luthiers. So it would be a little surprising for me to know that Ren didn't at least participate in the building of this guitar. Do I know that to a certainty? No, I do not. But I'd be surprised if he didn't, because it was really just him and a few guys, building. So, they were all working on the same guitars. Ren was not sitting in an office all day. That's for sure. He's a hands-on guy. So I feel fairly confident that he participated on some level in the building of this guitar. And, it feels, as I mentioned in the first video, that's it feels and looks like a handmade guitar. It really does. It just doesn't look like a mass production guitar. It really doesn't. It just looks like almost like a one-off. Now, what the serial number tells me is that this was built or finished on the 354th day of 1989, and they only did a run of 13. So this is a one of 13 Gibson Doves that were made, presumably all in this burst. Maybe not. Maybe this is even more rare than one of 13. I've never seen another. I've looked and looked and looked. It doesn't mean they're not out there, but I haven't seen one yet. I'm going to keep looking. But it's really an amazing guitar. It's really, really fun to play. It's got all the classic things that you want in a Gibson acoustic, and really anything you'd expect, out of a Gibson Dove. So it was a really lucky find. I bought it from a gentleman in Indiana, and the interesting thing about it was it belonged to his dad, and his dad, it was one of those things where he bought it and just never played it. It just literally sat under a bed for 30 plus years. And the gentleman I bought it from wanted to upgrade some electric guitars that he had, but he needed to, kind of come up with some money, maybe thin the herd a little bit. So he very reluctantly let go of this one. And I was driving down the highway on the way to a job, and I, shopping on reverb while I'm driving. Sorry, not a smart thing to do, but saw it on there, started messaging him, letting him know that I was interested and that I knew all the background. As soon as I saw the information on what it was, I the bell started going off. And he was really, really nice gentleman. We negotiated a deal, and I wound up getting it from him. But the point I'm going with on all that is, it's literally in showroom condition. I mean, it's the guitar is 35 years old now, and it's actually just in mint condition. I mean, there's not a scratch on it. I haven't scratched it, and the folks before me never did. So it's one of those things where it's really almost, it's opening up even more that I play it. So it's kind of interesting that a guitar this old it's still got potential to open up a little bit. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to do a quick update video on this Gibson Dove, talk a little bit about Doves. And what I've got planned is I've got a really interesting shootout that I'm going to do between this guitar and another one that I am currently in the process of doing some setup work on. It's not quite ready yet for prime time, but I'll do a review of that guitar probably next. And then what I'd like to do, because they're so similar in construction, I'll do a shootout. So stick around the channel if you can, and I think it'll be a really fun and interesting comparison video for the next guitar that I've got lined up. So that's it. Thanks again for tuning in. Always great to be here with you, and I guess I'll just wish you a very happy weekend, and hopefully we'll see you again very, very soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.